I'm Sierra, 30 years old now, but the memory still stings. After 4 years of straight A's and 3 academic scholarships, my graduation day should have been perfect. I'd reserved front row seats for my parents, bought them proud family pins, and even arranged their hotel. Then came the text, "Sorry, honey, we're too tired to make the drive." I swallowed my disappointment, walked across that stage alone, only to discover their Instagram posts later. Smiling proudly at my sister Kelly's dance recital, happening the exact same hour. Where are you watching from today? Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. Growing up in Lakeside, a middle-class suburb outside Detroit, Michigan, my childhood looked normal from the outside. Our two-story colonial with blue shutters sat on a quiet street with maple trees and weekend barbecues. My parents, Miranda and Richard, both worked stable jobs. Mom as an administrative assistant at the local hospital and Dad in sales for an automotive parts supplier. Our family of 4 seemed complete when Kelly arrived 5 years after me, her birth announced with twice the fanfare mine had received, according to family stories. The neighborhood was the kind where kids played outside until streetlights came on, and families gathered for block parties in summer. Our house was always immaculately kept, at least the parts visitors would see. The family photos lining the staircase told a story, one I didn't fully recognize until I was older. In nearly every frame, Kelly took center stage while I stood slightly off-center, as if my presence was an afterthought to the composition. The first clear memory I have of noticing the difference in how we were treated came when I was 8 and Kelly was 3. I'd won the school spelling bee, coming home clutching my certificate with pride. Mom glanced at it, said, "That's nice, Sierra," and immediately turned her attention to Kelly's preschool finger painting. Dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. My certificate eventually made its way to the refrigerator, only to be covered by Kelly's artwork within days. Kelly's room was a princess wonderland, custom pink walls with hand-painted butterflies, a canopy bed my mother spent weeks selecting, and built-in bookshelves my father installed over a weekend. My room remained the same pale yellow it had been since infancy, with furniture from discount stores that was perfectly functional, as Mom would say whenever I asked about updating it. Birthday celebrations highlighted the disparity even more starkly. Kelly's parties were elaborate affairs with themes, catered food, and dozens of guests. My mother would spend weeks planning every detail, from custom invitations to party favors. For my 16th birthday, typically a milestone, I received a store-bought cake after dinner and a gift card. When I mentioned feeling hurt, my mother said, "You're not really into parties anyway, Sierra." I hadn't realized my preferences had been decided for me. Despite the lack of encouragement at home, academics came naturally to me. Science and mathematics weren't just subjects I excelled in, they were refuges. In the organized world of equations and experimental results, effort correlated directly with success. Unlike at home, where the rules seemed constantly shifting and unattainable. By 16, I was working weekends at the local bookstore, saving every dollar possible. My parents made it clear that while they'd help with Kelly's future dance academy dreams, my college education would largely be my responsibility. "You're so smart, Sierra. You'll get scholarships," Mom would say, not as a compliment, but as a way to absolve themselves of financial responsibility. And I did get scholarships. 3 of them, covering about 70% of my tuition to Westlake University. The remaining 30% came from my savings and student loans I took out myself. When I announced my acceptance and scholarships at dinner, Dad nodded and immediately pivoted to Kelly's upcoming dance competition. Mom at least managed a "we knew you could do it" before joining the conversation about costume options. The pattern was so established that I barely felt the sting anymore. When my research paper won a state competition, my parents had a prior commitment, Kelly's soccer game, where she mostly sat on the bench. When I was selected for a prestigious summer internship, they couldn't attend the reception because Kelly had a cold. Not serious enough to need care, just enough to keep them home. Throughout it all, I never blamed Kelly. At 12, when I was heading to college, she was still a child who naturally absorbed the attention lavished upon her. Her talent for dance was real, if not exceptional, and her bubbly personality drew people in. She looked up to me, calling me her super smart sister, and genuinely celebrating my achievements in a way our parents never did. "Sierra, can you help me with my science project?" she'd ask, eyes wide with admiration. These moments created a complicated emotional landscape, loving my sister while resenting the imbalance of our parents' affection. I'd help her with homework, attend her recitals, and cheer genuinely for her successes, all while nursing the wound of my own invisibility at home. By the time I entered my senior year of college, I'd built a life largely independent of my family's approval. My professors became mentors, friends became support systems, and my own achievements became sufficient validation. Or so I told myself, even as a part of me held out hope that graduation might finally be the moment my parents would see me, really see me, and feel the pride they so easily expressed for my sister. Senior year brought challenges and triumphs that shaped me profoundly. My final semester included an advanced research project on sustainable energy storage that caught the attention of industry professionals. Dr. Maxwell, my research advisor, nominated my work for the university's Innovation Award, which came with recognition at a special ceremony 2 weeks before graduation. I sent my parents an invitation, which they declined due to budget constraints for travel. The same month they purchased Kelly a new dance competition wardrobe. The research recognition led to something even more significant, a job offer from North Star Technologies, a leading firm in renewable energy solutions. The starting salary and benefits package exceeded my expectations, and the position aligned perfectly with my career aspirations. When I called home with the news, Mom said, "That's wonderful, honey," before immediately asking if I could talk to Kelly about her boy troubles. The conversation lasted 45 minutes, 40 of which were devoted to my sister's latest drama with her dance partner. Despite these familiar disappointments, I approached graduation with renewed optimism. This wasn't just any achievement. This was the culmination of 4 years of dedicated work, of proving to myself and others that I deserved my place in the scientific community. Surely this milestone would merit my parents' full attention and presence. 3 months before the ceremony, I mailed formal invitations to my family, including detailed information about accommodations. I researched hotels near campus, finding one with a special graduation weekend rate, and included this information in a thoughtful email. I even offered to pay for their room, which they declined, saying they would figure it out. "We wouldn't miss it, Sierra," my mother said during our monthly phone call. "Your father has already requested the day off." This verbal commitment gave me hope, though I noticed they didn't ask any details about the ceremony or express particular excitement. To make the weekend as convenient as possible, I arranged everything in advance. I created an itinerary with clear directions to the campus, parking information, and suggestions for a celebratory dinner afterward. I sent regular reminders, not out of distrust, but genuine excitement to share this day with them. Just 2 more months until graduation. I texted in April, receiving a thumbs-up emoji in response. "The ceremony starts at 11, but you'll want to arrive by 10 to get good seats," I explained in May, getting a "got it" in return. My roommate Rachel noticed my anxious attention to these details. "Sierra, you've thought of everything. It's going to be perfect," she assured me, helping me select a special dress to wear under my graduation gown, a professional but feminine blue sheath that made me feel confident. The week before graduation buzzed with excitement. My phone filled with messages from friends coordinating their family plans. Melissa's parents were flying in from Oregon. James had grandparents coming from 3 different states. Everyone spoke of dinner reservations and photo opportunities. I mentioned my own family's imminent arrival with practiced casualness, not revealing the undercurrent of anxiety their lukewarm responses had created. I called home one final time the Tuesday before Saturday's ceremony. Mom answered distractedly, the sound of a television show playing in the background. "We're very busy this week, Sierra," she said when I asked about their departure plans. "But we'll be there, don't worry so much." "I'm not worried," I lied. "Just excited to see you." The words felt hollow, even as I spoke them. The day before graduation brought a flurry of activity. The practice ceremony in the morning, last-minute adjustments to my cap and gown, and a lunch with my academic department where professors spoke of their pride in our class's accomplishments. Dr. Jennifer Hughes, my favorite professor, pulled me aside. "Your parents arriving tonight?" she asked warmly. "Tomorrow morning," I replied, the knot in my stomach tightening. "They're driving in early." That evening I tried calling again. The call went straight to voicemail. Not unusual, as reception at our family home could be spotty. I left a cheerful message about looking forward to seeing them tomorrow and went to bed early, wanting to be well rested for the momentous day ahead. Rachel, always perceptive, noticed my tension as we prepared our apartment for my parents' brief visit after the ceremony. "They'll be here, Sierra," she reassured me. "And even if something happens, I'm here. My parents said they'd love to take you to dinner with us." I smiled gratefully, but dismissed her concern. "Of course they'll be here. It's graduation." I said this with more confidence than I felt, straightening the guest towels for the third time that evening. Morning arrived with brilliant sunshine, as if the universe itself was celebrating with us. I woke early, styling my hair carefully and applying makeup that would look good in photographs. As I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed with a message notification. My heart leapt, expecting final details about my parents' arrival. Instead, the message shattered my carefully constructed hope. "Sierra, sorry, but we're just too tired to make the drive today. Been a hectic week with Kelly's rehearsals. We're so proud of you, though. Take pictures." The text message felt like a physical blow. I read it 3 times, my hands trembling so badly, I nearly dropped my phone. 100 emotions crashed through me simultaneously. Shock, disbelief, hurt, and a sickening sense of confirmation that what I'd always suspected was undeniably true. I simply didn't matter enough. I called immediately, my breath coming in short gasps. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. I sent a desperate text. "Please come. This is really important to me." No response appeared, not even the typing indicator to show they'd seen my plea. The tears came then, hot and uncontrollable. I slid down against the kitchen wall, hugging my knees to my chest, my graduation gown hanging mockingly on the door nearby. Rachel found me there 20 minutes later, still crying, and wordlessly sat beside me on the cold tile floor. "They're not coming," I managed between sobs. "They said they're too tired." Rachel's expression shifted from sympathy to barely concealed anger. "That's not okay, Sierra. Not for graduation." "I reserved seats," I said, fixating on this meaningless detail. "Front row. I put their names on them." After letting me cry it out, Rachel helped me to my feet. "You have 1 hour to get ready. This is still your day. They don't get to take that away from you." In the bathroom mirror, I hardly recognized myself. My eyes were swollen, face blotchy from crying. With mechanical precision, I repaired my makeup, covering the evidence of heartbreak. The hollow feeling in my chest remained, but I straightened my shoulders and practiced a smile that almost looked genuine. "You look beautiful," Rachel said when I emerged in my blue dress and graduation gown. "And you've worked too hard to let anyone dim your light today." The campus buzzed with excitement as families gathered, taking photos against scenic backdrops. I posed with Rachel and our other roommate Tara, smiling for pictures that would show no evidence of the emptiness I felt. Each time I saw a proud parent embracing their graduate, the knot in my stomach tightened. As we lined up alphabetically for the procession, I found myself scanning the gathering crowd, some irrational part of me still hoping my parents might have changed their minds. The seats I'd reserved would remain conspicuously empty, visible from the stage where I'd walk to receive my diploma. The ceremony began with all the pomp the occasion deserved. Seated among my peers, I focused on the university president's speech about achievement and future potential, trying to absorb the significance of the moment despite my personal disappointment. When my row stood to approach the stage, I felt disconnected from my body, as if watching myself from a distance. Sierra Walker, magna cum laude, the dean announced as I crossed the stage. I shook hands, accepted my diploma, and moved the tassel on my cap from right to left. My eyes involuntarily flicked to where my parents should have been sitting. Dr. Jennifer Hughes, seated with the faculty, caught my glance and gave me an encouraging nod, seeming to sense something was wrong. After the ceremony, graduates flooded the lawn for the traditional hat toss and family photos. I stood slightly apart, watching the joyful reunions happening all around me. Dr. Hughes approached, her academic robes flowing around her as she walked.
Congratulations, Sierra.
Your research work this year was exceptional. Thank you. I managed, grateful for her recognition. Your family couldn't make it? She asked gently. The practice lie came easily. Family emergency. Last minute. The words tasted bitter. She squeezed my shoulder. Well, we're certainly proud of you. The department is lucky to have had you. Rachel's parents found us then, enveloping me in warm hugs as if I belonged to them. We're taking you both to lunch, Mrs. Parker announced. No arguments. This calls for champagne. The restaurant was filled with graduation celebrations, tables of families toasting their graduates. I checked my phone repeatedly throughout the meal, hoping for some message of explanation or apology. At 2:30, a text finally appeared from my mother. Congratulations on your graduation. Hope it went well. The casual tone, as if she'd merely missed a routine coffee date rather than one of the most significant moments of my life, left me speechless. I excused myself to the restroom, where I stared at the message until the screen went dark. Rachel's family tried their best to include me in their celebration, asking about my new job and future plans. I answered their questions, laughed at their jokes, and expressed appropriate gratitude for their kindness. But the performance exhausted me. By evening, all I wanted was to be alone. Back at the apartment, I hung my gown carefully in the closet and placed my diploma on the desk. The embossed university seal and my name in elegant script represented everything I'd worked for, yet in that moment it felt hollow. I sat on the edge of my bed still in my blue dress and let the tears come again. I pulled out my journal and wrote, "Today I graduated magna cum laude from Westlake University. Mom and Dad didn't come. They were too tired." I walked across the stage alone. I wonder if they would have been too tired for Kelly's graduation. The words stared back at me, stark and painful in their truth. I closed the journal, turned off the light, and curled up still dressed, emotionally drained beyond measure. My last thought before sleep claimed me was a question. Had I ever truly mattered to them at all? Sunday morning arrived with gentle sunlight filtering through my blinds. For a blissful moment between sleep and wakefulness, I existed in a neutral space before the memory of yesterday's disappointment came flooding back. My phone buzzed with notifications, congratulatory messages from extended family and friends who hadn't attended the ceremony. I made coffee on autopilot, carrying the steaming mug to my desk where my laptop waited. Opening it felt like a necessary distraction, a way to connect with the world beyond my disappointment. Facebook loaded with its usual stream of updates, most now featuring graduation photos from my classmates. Melissa beaming between her parents. James surrounded by grandparents and cousins. Rachel with her family at the restaurant where I'd been their charity case. I scrolled past these images with a practiced numbness, having already done my crying. Then my scrolling stopped abruptly. My mother's profile picture smiled back at me beside a post from yesterday, timestamped 11:24 a.m., precisely when I had been walking across the graduation stage. The photo showed my parents in the front row of what appeared to be a small auditorium, their faces alight with undisguised pride. My sister Kelly, 14 now, posed in a sparkly blue dance costume, holding a modest trophy. The caption read, "So proud of our amazing dancer. Kelly placed third in the regional showcase today. Worth the early drive to see our star shine. #ProudParents, #DanceMom, #DanceStat." My coffee mug slipped from my hand, spilling across the desk. I barely noticed the hot liquid soaking into my papers as I stared at the evidence of their lie. They hadn't been too tired to attend an important event. They had chosen, deliberately chosen, Kelly's dance recital over my college graduation. The timestamp mocked me. While I had been receiving my diploma alone, they had been cheering for Kelly. The early morning drive they couldn't manage for my graduation had somehow been possible for her dance showcase. My hands shook as I clicked through more photos in the album. My parents wearing matching dance family t-shirts. Kelly and her troupe backstage. My father buying flowers from the venue gift shop. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers, nearly dropping it as I dialed Rachel's number. They lied, I said when she answered, my voice breaking. They weren't too tired. They went to Kelly's dance recital instead. What? Rachel's shock came through clearly. Are you sure? It's all over Facebook. Time-stamped during our ceremony. They're smiling, Rachel. Wearing matching t-shirts they bought specially for it. Rachel's silence spoke volumes before she finally said, I'm coming over. Don't do anything yet. While waiting for Rachel, I continued my painful investigation. Comments beneath my mother's post twisted the knife further. You guys never miss a performance. Best dance parents ever, from Kelly's dance instructor. Third time driving 3 hours this month for competitions. That's dedication, from my Aunt Lisa. 3 hours? They told me they couldn't drive 2 hours for my graduation because they were too tired. I whispered to the empty room, a fresh wave of hurt washing over me. When Rachel arrived, she found me sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by printed family photos I'd pulled from albums. Years of evidence laid out in chronological order. Kelly's events attended, mine missed. Birthday parties elaborately planned versus birthdays barely acknowledged. It's always been like this, I said flatly. I just never had such clear proof before. Rachel sat beside me, examining the photos and social media printouts. Have you called them? I nodded. 4 times. Straight to voicemail every time. I showed her the text I'd sent 30 minutes earlier. I saw the dance recital photos. You lied about being too tired. You chose Kelly's recital over my graduation. Please explain why. My mother's response had been infuriatingly dismissive. Don't make this into a bigger deal than it is, Sierra. Kelly needed us there. You're independent. We'll celebrate your graduation when you visit next month. Rachel read the message and looked up with disbelief. That's not an apology. That's not even an acknowledgement of what they did. They don't think they did anything wrong, I said, the realization settling over me like a heavy blanket. In their minds, Kelly always needs them more than I do. My achievements are expected. Hers are exceptional. It's always been this way. The rest of the day passed in a blur of emotions, anger giving way to profound sadness, then cycling back to rage. Rachel stayed, ordering pizza neither of us ate much of, helping me pack away the graduation memorabilia that now felt tainted. What are you going to do? She asked as evening approached. I stared out the window at the campus, where I'd spent 4 years building a life separate from my family's validation. I think I need to confront them. Not over text. In person. I need to see their faces when they try to justify this. Rachel nodded. Want me to come with you? No, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. This is something I need to do alone. But thank you for offering. That night, I drafted and deleted dozens of messages to my parents. Nothing seemed adequate to express the depth of my hurt. In the end, I sent nothing, deciding that my presence at their doorstep the following weekend would be message enough. As I tried to sleep, memories surfaced unbidden. A science fair in 5th grade, where my project won first place, but my parents had attended Kelly's beginner ballet class instead. High school honors night, where I received 3 awards with no family in attendance because Kelly had a cold. Countless achievements met with perfunctory acknowledgement, while Kelly's participation trophies earned lavish praise. The pattern was undeniable, and for the first time, I allowed myself to fully feel the cumulative pain of a lifetime of being second best in my parents' eyes. Not because of any failure on my part, but because they had somehow decided, long ago, that Kelly would be the daughter who received their unconditional support and celebration. By morning, my sadness had crystallized into resolve. This wasn't just about a missed graduation anymore. This was about finally confronting the family dynamic that had shaped my entire life, for better and worse. I would no longer pretend it wasn't happening. I would no longer make excuses for their behavior. I deserved better. And it was time they knew it. The drive to my parents' house the following Saturday felt simultaneously endless and too brief. Each mile marker brought me closer to a confrontation I'd been avoiding my entire life. Rachel had helped me prepare, role-playing potential conversations, and emphasizing the importance of staying calm but firm. "Remember," she'd said as I loaded my overnight bag into the car, "this isn't about making them feel guilty. It's about being honest about how their actions have affected you." I nodded, though privately I wondered if guilt might be precisely what they needed to feel. The 2-hour drive gave me ample time to rehearse what I would say, imagining their responses and my rebuttals. I practiced maintaining my composure, determined not to let tears undermine my message. The familiar streets of my hometown stirred complicated emotions as I drove through them. This place had shaped me, yet I'd always felt like an outsider here. I parked in front of the Colonial with blue shutters, noting that the garden looked freshly tended, my mother's weekend project when she wasn't attending Kelly's events. I hadn't told them I was coming. The element of surprise felt necessary, preventing them from preparing excuses or conveniently making other plans. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed my phone with the screenshot evidence and walked to the front door. My knock was answered by Kelly herself, her face lighting up with genuine pleasure at seeing me. At 14, she was entering the awkward phase of adolescence, braces newly installed and limbs slightly too long for her developing coordination. "Sierra," she exclaimed, throwing her arms around me. "What are you doing here? Did Mom and Dad know you were coming?" "It's a surprise," I said, returning her hug with genuine affection. Despite everything, my issues weren't with Kelly. "Are they home?" "In the living room. Dad's watching golf and Mom's doing something on her iPad." "Come on." She practically dragged me inside, my heart hammering as we approached the living room.
Mom, Dad.
"Look who's here." The surprise on my parents' faces would have been comical under different circumstances. My mother, Miranda, set aside her iPad with wide eyes while my father, Richard, muted the television.
Sierra.
Mom exclaimed, standing to hug me. "What a surprise." "Is everything okay?" "We weren't expecting you," Dad added, his tone suggesting my unannounced visit was an inconvenience rather than a pleasant surprise. "Clearly," I said, forcing a smile as I set my overnight bag down. "I thought we should talk in person." Something in my tone must have signaled the seriousness of my intent, because my mother's expression shifted slightly. "Kelly, honey, why don't you go practice your solo upstairs? The regional finals are only 3 weeks away." Kelly looked between us, sensing tension. "But Sierra just got here." "It's okay," I assured her. "We'll catch up later, I promise." After Kelly reluctantly headed upstairs, an uncomfortable silence filled the living room. I remained standing, though my parents had resumed their seats. "So," my mother began with forced cheerfulness, "how was the graduation? Did you get good photos?" The casual question, as if she hadn't missed one of the most significant days of my life, ignited the anger I'd been carefully containing. "I think you know exactly how it was, considering you chose not to be there," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "But that's actually why I'm here. I saw your Facebook posts." My mother's expression froze while my father shifted uncomfortably in his recliner. "What posts?" she asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshots, and handed it to her. "These posts. From Kelly's dance recital. Posted at exactly 11:24 a.m. last Saturday, during my graduation ceremony." My father leaned over to look at the screen, his face reddening slightly. "You're tracking the timestamp of your mother's social media now? That seems excessive, Sierra." "What seems excessive," I countered, "is telling your daughter you're too tired to attend her college graduation when you're actually attending another event that you chose not to tell her about." My mother handed the phone back, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Kelly needed us there. It was an important showcase. And my graduation wasn't important. The hurt in my voice was unmistakable despite my efforts to sound confident. That's not what we're saying, my father interjected. You're blowing this out of proportion. You know how Kelly gets nervous before performances. I was nervous too, Dad. I was graduating college.
Magna cum laude.
After 4 years of working harder than anyone should have to work, and I wanted my parents there. My mother sighed dramatically. Sierra, you've always been independent. We knew you'd be fine without us. So, because I'm capable, I don't deserve your support? How does that make sense? I could feel my carefully maintained composure beginning to crack. You've always done this. For my entire life, Kelly's smallest accomplishments have been celebrated while my biggest ones have been treated as afterthoughts. That's ridiculous, my father said, his voice rising. We've always supported both of you. I laughed without humor. Really? Because I have evidence that suggests otherwise. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder of photos I'd compiled. Years of documented absences and inequities. My 5th grade science fair win. You were at Kelly's ballet class. High school honors night. Kelly had a cold, so no one came. My college acceptance, barely acknowledged at dinner before the conversation turned to Kelly's dance competition. I laid the photos and notes on the coffee table between us. This isn't one missed graduation. This is a pattern that's existed my entire life. My mother glanced at the evidence without really seeing it. You're being dramatic, Sierra. And frankly, a little ungrateful. We've given you everything you needed. Needed, maybe, but not what I wanted. Not your time, not your attention, and certainly not your pride. My voice cracked on the last word. A door opened upstairs, and Kelly appeared at the top of the staircase, clearly having been listening. What's going on? She asked, her young face clouded with concern. Nothing, honey, my mother called up. Sierra, and we're just having a discussion about the graduation. You missed her graduation for my recital? Kelly asked, descending the stairs slowly. Why didn't you tell me that's why you couldn't go? The genuine confusion on Kelly's face confirmed what I'd always suspected. She had no idea about the disparity in our treatment. In her world, our parents' devotion seemed normal and equally distributed. It wasn't that simple, Kelly, my father began, clearly uncomfortable with her presence in this conversation. It seems pretty simple to me, Kelly said, joining us in the living room. You told Sierra you were too tired, but you came to my recital instead. That's really not fair. My mother's expression hardened. Kelly, this is an adult conversation. Please go back upstairs.
No, interjecta.
She deserves to hear this too. She's not responsible for how you've treated us differently. Kelly's eyes widened as she looked at the photos spread across the table. What are all these? Evidence, I said simply. Of all the times our parents chose your events over mine. Kelly picked up a photo of my high school graduation where only my grandmother had attended because our parents were at Kelly's summer dance intensive orientation. I didn't know, she whispered. They never told me they were missing your things for mine. My father stood abruptly. That's enough, Sierra. You're upsetting your sister and creating problems where there aren't any. We've always done our best for both of you. Your best, I repeated incredulously. Your best was lying to me about why you couldn't attend my college graduation? Your best was consistently prioritizing one child over the other for my entire life. My mother stood as well, her face flushed with anger. You want to know the truth, Sierra? The truth is that Kelly needs more support than you do.
She always has.
You were always self-sufficient, always figured things out on your own. Kelly needs guidance, needs encouragement. So I'm punished for being capable? For not demanding your attention? How is that fair? Life isn't fair, my father said dismissively. You've always been fine on your own. You should be proud of that independence instead of complaining about it now. His words struck like a physical blow. All my life, I'd interpreted my self-sufficiency as a strength. Now I realize my parents saw it merely as a convenience. A child who didn't need them freed up resources for the one who did. Or the one they perceived as needing them more. You're right, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. Life isn't fair. But parents are supposed to try to make it fair for their children. You didn't even try. That's not true, my mother protested. We've always been proud of you. Proud enough to miss my graduation for a dance recital that wasn't even a significant competition? Proud enough to tell me you were too tired instead of being honest? Kelly had tears streaming down her face now. I wouldn't have even performed if I'd known, she said. I would have told you to go to Sierra's graduation. See what you've done? My mother hissed at me. You've upset your sister over ancient history. Saturday wasn't ancient history, I shot back. And this isn't about making Kelly feel bad. This is about you two acknowledging the favoritism that's defined our family dynamic for as long as I can remember. Favoritism, my father scoffed. That's a strong word. Is it? Tell me honestly, if Kelly had been graduating college and I had a dance recital on the same day, which would you have attended? Their silence answered more eloquently than words could have. Kelly looked between our parents, realization dawning on her young face. You would have gone to my recital, wouldn't you? She asked quietly. Even if Sierra was graduating. Neither parent responded, which was confirmation enough. Why? Kelly pressed, showing a maturity beyond her 14 years. Why would my dance be more important than Sierra's college graduation? My mother finally exploded. Because she doesn't need us like you do. Sierra has always been fine without us. She's always been the strong one, the independent one. You're more sensitive, more artistic. You need the support. The room fell silent after her outburst. Kelly stared at our mother in horror, while my father looked away, unwilling to meet anyone's eyes. I never asked to be the strong one, I said quietly, tears finally spilling over. I became strong because I had to. Because from the time Kelly was born, I learned that my needs came second. That I had to take care of myself because no one else would prioritize me. Years of suppressed pain poured out as I continued. Do you have any idea what it feels like to watch your parents consistently choose your sibling over you? To know that no matter what you achieve, it will never be enough to warrant the same attention and celebration? To be told that your independence, which you developed because you had no choice, is now the reason you don't deserve equal treatment? My mother's face registered shock at the raw emotion in my voice. My father finally looked at me, something like recognition flickering in his eyes. I've spent my entire life feeling unloved, I said, the admission tearing from somewhere deep inside me. Not unloved completely, but less loved. Second place. The child you had before you had the child you really wanted. Kelly let out a sob and ran from the room, the sound of her footsteps pounding up the stairs followed by the slam of her bedroom door. Now look what you've done, my mother said coldly. That was the breaking point. What I've done. What about what you've done? To both of us? Kelly didn't know she was being favored, and I wasn't allowed to acknowledge I was being sidelined. We've all been living this lie together, and I'm the only one willing to name it. I grabbed my bag and the scattered photos, shoving them inside haphazardly. I'm done pretending. I'm done making excuses for you. I'm done accepting scraps of attention and convincing myself they're enough. Where are you going? My father asked, finally seeming to realize the magnitude of the moment. Away from here. I have a hotel reservation in town. I thought we might need space after this conversation, and clearly I was right. I headed for the door, pausing with my hand on the knob. I love you both. And I love Kelly. But I don't love how you've treated me. And until you can acknowledge that and apologize sincerely, I need some distance. My mother called after me, but I was already walking to my car, tears blurring my vision. The confrontation had gone both better and worse than I'd imagined. The truth was finally out in the open, but the pain felt fresher than ever. As I drove to the hotel, my phone buzzed with a text from Kelly. I'm so sorry, Sierra. I didn't know. I love you. At least one good thing had come from this awful day. Kelly knew the truth now, and her reaction suggested our relationship might actually grow stronger through this painful revelation. Alone in my hotel room, I finally allowed myself to fully break down, grieving not just for the graduation they'd missed, but for a childhood of subtle rejection I could finally acknowledge without shame. That night in the hotel became a turning point in my life. After crying until no more tears would come, I ordered room service, took a long shower, and made two significant decisions. I would accept the job offer from North Star Technologies in Boston, putting physical distance between myself and my family, and I would start therapy to address the emotional wounds I'd been carrying for years. My phone continued buzzing throughout the evening. Missed calls from both parents, text messages ranging from defensive, "You're completely mischaracterizing our parenting," to guilt-inducing, "Your sister is devastated by what you said." I silenced notifications from them, but responded to Kelly's message with reassurance that my issues weren't with her and that I loved her unconditionally. The next morning, I checked out early and drove straight back to my apartment, bypassing any potential family confrontation. Rachel was waiting with coffee and understanding, having been updated via text messages throughout the previous day's events. "So, what happens now?" she asked as we sat on our small balcony, watching the Sunday morning campus activity below. "I move forward," I said, surprising myself with the clarity I felt. "I accept the Boston job. I find a therapist. I establish boundaries with my parents. And I build a life that doesn't revolve around seeking their approval." Within 2 weeks, I had signed the employment contract with North Star, arranged for an apartment in Boston, and scheduled my first appointment with Diana Mercer, a therapist specializing in family dynamics and childhood emotional neglect. My parents' attempts at communication during this time ranged from angry to conciliatory, but none contained the one thing I needed: acknowledgement of the pattern and a genuine apology. My responses remained brief and factual. Yes, I was moving to Boston. No, I didn't need help with the move. Yes, I would let them know when I was settled. Kelly, however, became an unexpected source of support. At 14, she showed remarkable emotional intelligence in our conversations. "Mom and Dad keep saying you're overreacting," she confided during one of our phone calls. But I looked through our family photos and old calendars. "You're right, Sierra. They've always been in my stuff, and missing yours. I never noticed before." "It's not your fault, Kelly," I assured her. "You didn't create this situation." "I know, but I benefited from it. And that doesn't feel good either." Her insight touched me deeply. "Just keep being you, okay? This is between me and them. Our relationship is separate." My first session with Diana proved revelatory. Sitting in her comfortable office with its soft lighting and calming blue walls, I poured out my family history, culminating in the graduation betrayal and subsequent confrontation. "What you're describing," she said thoughtfully, "sounds like a classic case of parental favoritism combined with what we call parentification, placing adult expectations on a child. You became self-sufficient because you had to, and then that self-sufficiency was used against you." "That's exactly it," I said, feeling validated in a way I never had before. "They act like I should be grateful for being ignored because it made me independent." Diana nodded. Many parents unconsciously assign roles to their children: the responsible one, the fragile one, the talented one. These roles can become self-fulfilling prophecies. Your parents decided early on that you were the strong, independent child, and Kelly was the one who needed protection and support. Over coming weeks, as I prepared for my move and continued therapy, Diana helped me understand that my parents' behavior likely stemmed from their own upbringings and insecurities rather than any inherent flaw in me. This didn't excuse their actions but provided context that helped me process my feelings without being consumed by them. Boston represented a fresh start. My apartment, though small, was entirely mine, decorated according to my preferences, without compromise. My position at North Star challenged and excited me, offering the validation through achievement that I'd always sought. Colleagues became friends, and the city's vibrant energy matched my newfound determination to build a life on my own terms. 3 months after moving, I received an unexpected text from Kelly. "Sierra, I got selected for the state dance competition. It's a big deal, but I told Mom and Dad I don't want them to come unless they've made things right with you. I'd rather have you there than them." The message moved me to tears. Kelly, that's not necessary. I called to tell her. This is your moment. They should be there. But it's not fair, she insisted. They've been at all my things and missed all yours. Maybe they need to see what that feels like. That's very loyal of you, I said, but punishing them won't fix anything. What would help is if they recognize the pattern and commit to changing it. 2 weeks later, Kelly called me in tears. I qualified for Nationals Sierra. My first time. And I want you to come. Please? It's in Boston in July. The genuine excitement in her voice made my decision easy. I wouldn't miss it for anything. True to my word, I attended Kelly's national competition that summer, cheering loudly as she performed a beautiful contemporary piece that showcased her growing technical skill and artistic expression. My parents were there too, creating an awkward family reunion in the auditorium lobby. Thank you for coming, my mother said stiffly. It means a lot to Kelly. I'm here for Kelly, I replied. She's incredibly talented. You should be proud. The tension between us remained palpable, but for Kelly's sake, we maintained civil interactions. After her performance, I took her for ice cream alone, giving us sister time away from the family dynamics. They still don't really get it, Kelly confided, spooning hot fudge from her sundae. Dad said you're being stubborn about the whole thing. I smiled sadly. I'm not surprised. It's hard for people to acknowledge when they've hurt someone, especially if it means accepting they've been hurting them for years. I see it differently now, Kelly said thoughtfully. Like last week, I had a minor competition and you sent me that good luck text with the funny gif even though you couldn't be there. Mom and Dad were there, but they were on their phones half the time. It's not about showing up physically, it's about being emotionally present too. Her insight struck me as remarkably mature. When did you get so wise? She grinned. I had a good role model. Over the next year, my healing journey continued with Diana's guidance. I learned to identify the patterns of seeking validation that had developed from my childhood experiences. I recognized how this had affected my relationships, my career choices, and even my hobbies, always striving for excellence, always needing to prove my worth. The goal isn't to stop achieving, Diana explained during one particularly powerful session. The goal is to separate your achievements from your sense of self-worth. You deserve love and recognition simply for being you, not for what you accomplish. This concept proved challenging to internalize after a lifetime of trying to earn attention through achievement. But slowly, I began celebrating my own accomplishments in meaningful ways, whether anyone else acknowledged them or not. 6 months into my Boston life, I received an industry award for a sustainable energy storage project I'd led. The ceremony would be held at a prestigious downtown hotel, and recipients could bring guests. Without much thought, I invited my former professor, Dr. Jennifer Hughes, who had relocated to a university in New Hampshire, just an hour away. I'd be honored to attend, she said when I called. Your work has been exceptional, Sierra. We've been following your progress. The evening of the ceremony, Dr. Hughes, Jennifer, as she now insisted I call her, arrived elegantly dressed and bursting with pride. I knew you were destined for great things, she told me as we found our seats. Your focus and creativity were always exceptional. For the first time, I fully absorbed praise without immediately discounting it or needing more. Jennifer's genuine pride in my accomplishments filled a space in my heart that had long been empty. Here was someone who valued me, not despite my independence, but because of my whole self. Strengths, vulnerabilities, and all. When they called my name and I walked to the podium to accept the award, I spotted Jennifer beaming from our table. In that moment, I realized I'd begun building what therapists call a chosen family, people who supported and celebrated me without condition or comparison. My relationship with Kelly continued to strengthen despite the distance. We video chatted weekly, and she visited during school breaks, staying in my guest room and exploring Boston with teenage enthusiasm. During one such visit, she confessed that our parents' relationship with her had shifted subtly. They're different now, she said as we walked along the Charles River. Less intense about my dancing. Dad, actually suggested I might want to try other activities too, see if I like something else. How do you feel about that? I asked. She shrugged. Relieved, honestly. The pressure was a lot sometimes. I love dancing, but I don't know if it's my whole future, you know? I kind of want to try photography too. I smiled, recognizing that our confrontation had rippled outward, affecting not just my relationship with our parents, but Kelly's as well. Perhaps they were beginning to see how their intense focus had created unhealthy dynamics for both their children, albeit in different ways. As my first year in Boston drew to a close, I reflected on the tremendous growth I'd experienced. The pain hadn't disappeared entirely, perhaps it never would, but it had transformed into something manageable, even instructive. I had learned to parent my inner child, giving myself the recognition and celebration I'd always craved. I'd built meaningful relationships based on mutual respect rather than need. And I discovered that my worth existed independently of anyone else's assessment, even my parents. The most unexpected part of this growth was realizing that despite everything, I still loved my parents. Their flaws and failures hadn't erased the good moments we'd shared or the fact that in their imperfect way, they had tried to be good parents. They had simply lacked the tools, awareness, or perhaps courage to parent two very different children with equal attention and celebration. Understanding this didn't excuse their behavior, but it helped me hold space for the possibility of a different relationship in the future, one based on adult interactions rather than unfulfilled childhood expectations. Whether that would ever materialize remained uncertain, but the possibility itself represented healing I hadn't thought possible a year earlier. 2 years after the graduation that never was, my life in Boston had blossomed in ways I couldn't have imagined during those painful days. My position at North Star had evolved into a leadership role heading a research team developing cutting-edge battery technology. My apartment, once sparse and utilitarian, had become a warm, personalized space reflecting my personality, scientific journals alongside vintage record albums, houseplants thriving on every windowsill. Most significantly, I'd met Matthew, a civil engineer with kind eyes and an infectious laugh who'd approached me after a renewable energy conference where I'd been a speaker. Our relationship developed gradually, built on mutual respect and genuine interest in each other's passions. Unlike previous relationships, where I'd felt the need to downplay my achievements to avoid intimidating partners, Matthew celebrated my successes as enthusiastically as his own. "You're incredible," he'd say matter-of-factly after reading my published research papers. "Your mind works in such fascinating ways." His easy, genuine appreciation helped heal wounds I hadn't realized were still open. When he asked about my family and I explained the complicated dynamics, he listened without judgment but with obvious empathy. "Family relationships are complex," he observed. "But from what you've told me, you've handled an incredibly painful situation with remarkable grace." My relationship with Kelly had deepened into a true friendship transcending our age difference. Now 16, she had indeed taken up photography alongside dance, developing a keen eye for composition that surprised even her. We talked weekly, sharing our lives without the shadow of comparison that had once defined our sisterhood. "Mom asked about you again yesterday," Kelly mentioned during one of our calls. "She saw that article about your team in Scientific American. She seemed proud, Sierra." My contact with our parents had remained minimal but civil. Occasional text messages, birthday calls, and a brief visit when I returned to Michigan for a college friend's wedding. The deep wound of the graduation betrayal had scarred over, but left its mark on our relationship. Then came the Christmas gathering, 1 year after our confrontation. Kelly had begged me to come home for the holidays, and Matthew encouraged me to consider it. "You don't have to stay long," he said as I packed nervously. But closure might not come from permanent distance. Walking into my childhood home that December day felt like stepping into a familiar book I'd read long ago. The decorations were the same. The artificial tree with color-coordinated ornaments, the nutcracker collection on the mantel. Yet something felt subtly different in the atmosphere. My mother embraced me awkwardly. My father offered a stiff handshake. Kelly bounced between us all, desperately trying to generate festive spirit in the tense environment. We exchanged gifts, ate the traditional ham dinner, and made careful conversation about neutral topics, the weather, Kelly's school activities, my most recent project at work. After dinner, while Kelly showed Dad her latest photographs, Mom approached me in the kitchen where I was loading the dishwasher. "Your work sounds very important," she said, handing me a plate. "The renewable energy research." We saw the magazine article. "It is important," I replied, accepting both the plate and the olive branch it represented. "We're making real progress on storage solutions." She nodded, fidgeting with a dish towel. "Sierra, I know things haven't been ideal between us. I want you to know that I'm sorry things happened the way they did." It wasn't a full acknowledgement or apology, but it was something. A recognition that harm had occurred, even if she couldn't fully own her role in it. I accepted it for what it was. The most she could offer from her limited emotional vocabulary. "Thank you," I said simply. We stood in silence after that, the dishwasher humming between us, decades of complicated feelings swirling unspoken in the air. The real breakthrough came unexpectedly, for months later. I was at work, deep in discussion with my team about a prototype testing schedule, when my assistant interrupted. "Sierra, there's someone here to see you. He says he's your father." Shocked, I excused myself and went to the reception area where Dad stood awkwardly, looking out of place in his casual Michigan attire amid the sleek professional environment of North Star's headquarters. "Dad, what are you doing here?" He turned, and I was struck by how much older he looked than at Christmas. More gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes. "I was hoping we could talk. Do you have time for lunch?" 20 minutes later, we sat across from each other at a small cafe near my office. After ordering, an uncomfortable silence fell between us. "This is quite a surprise," I finally said. "Is everything okay? Is Kelly all right?" "Everyone's fine," he assured me quickly. I needed to see you. To talk to you without your mother or Kelly present." I waited, unsure what to expect. He took a deep breath. "I've been seeing someone, a therapist, for about 6 months now." Of all the things he might have said, this was perhaps the most surprising. My father had always dismissed therapy as paying strangers to listen to your problems. "What made you decide to do that?" I asked carefully. He stared into his coffee cup. "After you confronted us about the graduation, and especially after seeing you at Christmas, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said, about feeling unloved, or less loved. It kept me up at night." I remained silent, giving him space to continue. "At first, I was defensive, angry that you would accuse us of favoritism. But then I started really looking back, trying to see things from your perspective." His voice caught slightly. "And once I started looking, I couldn't stop seeing it. All the times we missed your events for Kelly's. All the times we celebrated her minor achievements while barely acknowledging your major ones." Tears pricked at my eyes, unexpected emotion rising at hearing him acknowledge what I'd felt for so long. Dr. Matthews, my therapist, helped me understand something important. I favored Kelly because she reminded me of myself as a kid. Insecure, needing constant reassurance. You reminded me of my older sister, Emma. This was new information. My father rarely spoke about his childhood or his sister, who had died before I was born. Emma was like you, smart, self-sufficient, seemed to have everything figured out. Our parents relied on her, expected her to be the responsible one while I got away with everything. I resented her for being the perfect one, even though she was carrying burdens no child should have to carry. He looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed. "I didn't consciously do to you what my parents did to Emma. But somehow, I recreated that same dynamic with you and Kelly. I expected you to be the strong one who didn't need support, while Kelly got all the attention and concern." My throat tightened with emotion. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I owe you an apology. A real one, not the half-hearted nonsense your mother and I have been offering. I failed you, Sierra. As a father, it was my job to love and support both my children equally, to celebrate both your achievements, to be present for both your important moments. And I didn't do that. A tear slipped down my cheek. No, you didn't. I can't change the past. I can't go back and attend your graduation or any of the countless other events we missed. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see the hurt we caused. And I am deeply, truly sorry. The weight of his words hung between us. The apology I'd been waiting for my entire life, delivered in a small Boston cafe on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. What does Mom think about all this? I asked after composing myself. He sighed. She's struggling with it. She's not ready to acknowledge everything yet. But she's agreed to come to a session with Dr. Matthews next month. It's a start. We talked for nearly 2 hours, covering ground we'd never explored before. His childhood, my feelings growing up, Kelly's developing awareness of the family dynamics. For the first time, I felt like he was seeing me, truly seeing me, as a person with valid feelings rather than just the strong, independent daughter who didn't need support. When we parted, our hug was the most genuine embrace we'd shared in years. I'm proud of you, Sierra, he said. Not just for your professional achievements, though those are remarkable. I'm proud of the person you've become despite the ways we failed you. That evening, I called Diana to process the unexpected visit and what it might mean for my healing journey. This is significant progress, she agreed. But remember that healing isn't linear, and one conversation doesn't erase years of hurt. Allow yourself to feel hopeful, but maintain your boundaries. She was right, of course. In the months that followed, there were steps forward and backward in my relationship with my parents. My mother's journey toward acknowledgement proved slower and more halting than my father's. Kelly continued to serve as an unexpected bridge between us, her growing maturity helping navigate the complex family dynamics. The process of healing continued in ways both expected and surprising. I found myself able to celebrate my accomplishments without the shadow of seeking parental approval. My relationship with Matthew deepened as I became more emotionally available, no longer guarding against potential rejection. I even mentored a young intern at North Star who reminded me of myself at that age, ensuring she received the recognition and support I had craved. On the second anniversary of my graduation, I received a package in the mail. Inside was a framed photo of me in my graduation cap and gown, one Rachel had taken, alongside a handwritten note from my father. Celebrating your achievement belatedly, but sincerely. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm working to be present now. That simple acknowledgement provided a kind of closure I hadn't realized I still needed. Not because it erased what had happened, but because it validated that it had mattered, that I had mattered all along. The truth I've come to embrace is that some wounds never completely heal. The child within me who longed for her parents' attention and celebration will always carry that longing. But I've learned to parent that inner child myself, to celebrate my own victories both large and small, and to surround myself with people who see and value me completely. Forgiveness, I've discovered, doesn't require forgetting. It doesn't even require that the other person fully understands the harm they caused. It requires only that I release myself from the burden of resentment, that I stop allowing past hurts to define my present and future. The family dynamics that shaped me created both strengths and vulnerabilities. My independence, resourcefulness, and drive emerged from necessity, but they became genuine assets as I built my adult life. My sensitivity to being overlooked or undervalued made me a more attentive friend, partner, and eventually, mentor to others. Most importantly, recognizing these patterns has allowed me to break them. I will never recreate with my own children the favoritism that marked my childhood. I will never dismiss their achievements or absence myself from their important moments with flimsy excuses. The cycle ends with me. If you've ever felt unseen or undervalued in your own family, know that you're not alone. Your feelings are valid, your achievements worthy of celebration, and your need for recognition entirely human. You cannot change others, but you can build a life filled with people who appreciate you fully and relationships that nurture rather than diminish you. Has your family ever made you feel invisible? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, Please subscribe and hit the like button so others can find this message too. Remember, sometimes the family that truly sees and celebrates you is the one you create for yourself. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you feel less alone in yours.